been with Sage for a little over 12 and a half years. Lots of different roles, but the current role I'm in right now is the channel manager for the SSG group. So there's 4 products included in that, and fixed assets. It's one of those. So I'm happy to be on this side of the fence, hopefully for a long, long time. And Wayne Austin, who's going to do the demo for us today, has been with Sage for quite a while, has a wealth of knowledge in the product. It's kind of the backbone as far as the success for FAST for us. So I'll kick it off to Wayne, if you want to do a quick intro, and then go ahead and get started. And I'm going to turn this transcript off.
Looks like I was muted there. Hey, good morning, everyone. I'm Wayne Austin, sales engineer on the product, so I will be the one taking you through this. And I'll actually have a few questions that I go through just to make sure I'm showing you everything you need to be able to see. And it sounds like we've got all sides covered here, including the IT side, which is great. So I'll talk about integration and implementation and things like that as well. And I'll leave my camera off, actually, so just saving bandwidth. So I just wanted to come on and say hi. All right.
Thanks. Go ahead.
Hey, can everyone see my screen? Let me make sure, because I'm actually sharing. I want to make sure you guys can all see that. And I'll go ahead and open up one of my projects here. So
yep,
everyone is good to go with seeing that and able to take it full screen?
Yep.
All right, excellent. All right, so right now you guys already have the depreciation and tracking module. So I'll talk about how this communicates with the depreciation side. So you're going to be using this for handling all of your CIP. So I take it that's going to include things like renovations or build outs of new clubs. All right. And how are you all handling that now?
Jared's work and Leanne work together from the development team and the asset finance team to make sure we record everything. We have Excel budgets. We have tracking actuals basically through invoices and Excel sheets, and come up with budget to actuals. I believe that Leanne has an Excel sheet that she loads all the assets on. We do them individually, not just in bulk, and exports that to FAS. Is that right, Leanne?
Right, when they're ready to be placed in service. Yeah. So whenever you ask, Glenn, because it looks like you're probably the one that's going to be asking, hey, I want to see what the spend is on project X over the last 30 days or 60 days, or where we are on these 3 projects, year to date.
In development want to see that too. So that's the development team is hungry for that kind of feedback.
Oh, got it. Because I imagine it's probably not that easy, a bit of scrambling, getting data off of different spreadsheets. So yeah, definitely you're going to be able to like the way you can easily get information about any project. So let me go ahead and open one of my projects and we'll talk about that a bit. Now, first thing you'll see when you open a project, it's going to give you a quick financial overview of what's going on with that particular project financially. So if you look on the left side here, I can easily see what's spent or unspent of my budget, what's capitalized, what's expense, even the total transactions count. In your right-hand section here, this graphic is really just showing you your actual spend against 2 sets of numbers here. Because in addition to having that original or approved amount you're working with, you can have a revised budget, that can be your floating target, basically. So in my case, my actual spend is 2.4 million and change against an original budget of 2 million and a revised budget of 3 million. So let's take a look at
what we do, Jared, except that yellow one would be higher than any of them, right, Jared?
Oh, which one? You talking about the actual spend?
Well, the budget always goes up. It doesn't go down, I don't think. And then, yeah, the actual sometimes surprises us, but we'll see.
Yeah, anything that involves construction materials or anything that's shipped nowadays is not going to stay static.
Especially right now. Yes.
So I went in my project settings now. So remember, you can have multiple projects going at once, and I'm just in one of my 4 projects right now. So of course, when you set this up, you're going to give it a name, a project code, whatever you want to call it, start and end date, and you can actually, of course, come back and revise that at any point. The important thing on this screen, of course, is, hey, what's my budget I'm working with? So this is where I mentioned you don't have to change that. So let's say, you're, in my case, a $2 million budget that I'm approved for whatever I'm working with. As I'm going through this, you're getting all these revised estimates, labor cost overrun, materials overrun, and so on. Someone is going to be accountable for, hey, how badly are we busting that original budget, right? So this is where being able to add the revised budget, let this be the moving target. So whenever someone asks, which is probably Glenn, hey, how far off the original target are we? And how far off our revised target are we? And you can even do a quick calculation here to see where that stands, right? So let's get out of that for a moment. So I'm in a single project, as I mentioned, right? So how I want you to think about the items at this level is what's going to be a fixed asset, right? So in the case of a Planet Fitness Club, right? If you guys own the building is probably going to be one, right? And you might even have the building broken down, the actual structure. You might have the roof separately with a different life. You may have, security systems, building signs, and so on as individual assets. So, think about at this level, what's going to be the assets that's going to be depreciated in the depreciation module, right? So certainly you're going to have your various individual pieces of equipment, all of those types of things, right? Now, let's take a look in one of the asset details or, line items as we call them here. It's got its own budget that's rolling up against the overall project budget. And again, you have the opportunity to have a revised budget. These fields here are all customizable. I can rename them anything I choose so that when you place an item in service from the planning module, you actually have the ability to link any of these fields, right, to a field in the depreciation module. So one of the recommendations I usually have here is use one of these fields to actually capture the project name or project code, so that when you place anything in service in the depreciation module, if you're mapping that field to populate a general information field in depreciation, let's say, Ryan or, one of you guys want to find, hey, I want to find all of the items from build out for, location 25 or whatever it is, right? I can search based on that and find every single item. So that's, one thing, but let me actually open up the depreciation at the same time, because I actually want to show you both sides of the coin at once. The other side of that is, of course, how easy is it going to be to find things when I place something in service here, right? So let's go ahead and open up one of my projects. So now let's say I sent over 10 items and I want to see them. If you look in your fixed assets list view and depreciation, if they're the last things you sent over, sure, you're going to see them right here, right? But let's say they were sent over, 2 months ago, and I've added 50 things since then. They're not going to be at the bottom of the list here. So your first question is going to be for the folks on the depreciation side. Hey, I want to see what was placed in service in January, right? Coming out of a project. So yes, if I'm identifying that project code and I'm using one of the general information fields, I can search and find, everything from that project. I think I have a field here, planning reference number, right? So I can search based on that field. So just to let you guys see what I'm talking about, I'm using one of these fields that if this had come from a project, I would bring over that project code so I can easily find it. The other quick way of finding things is if you look in the groups list, anything coming from planning, which all of these came from, it's going to create a date and timestamp. So if I sent over 1 item or 100 items at that date and time, they're going to all show up in that group, right? So if you take a look at these came over from that particular project, right? Because I brought that field over. Now, here's something else to keep in mind. In the depreciation side, are you all using asset templates?
When you say asset templates, what do you mean?
Oh, sure. So if I wanted to add a new asset, okay, I click on, add an asset, and rather than having to manually populate, class, GL account, depreciation methods and lives and all that, I can create templates where I'm including all of that type of information. So if I'm going to add, whatever it is, right? Here, I'll just pick, let's say some furniture, all right? And I have a template created. In my template, I have the correct GL account, the class, even department and location. But notice I have the IRS property type, depreciation methods, and lives for all the assets. So literally all I would need to do is give it an acquisition date, and service date, and a value, which I can hit apply book defaults and copy that across everything else, and I'm good to go, right? So I wouldn't
Yeah,
have to sit here
we're
populating all of that.
we're using an Excel sheet to upload into FAS that would do
Okay.
that. Is that right, Leanne?
So if you're doing it from Excel, it's going to take everything that you have in that Excel spreadsheet explicitly. So is that how you typically do all of your additions right now?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So in that case, you probably don't have templates set up. Do you guys have the integration set up between Sage 300 and the depreciation module?
Yes.
You do? So are you also doing things where you're doing an AP transaction and telling it to create the asset directly in the depreciation module?
No.
Okay, because that would be the other time you would use templates, because Sage 300 would then be able to see all of the templates you have here and create those assets, which includes that information. Now, you guys are using regular Sage 300, not 300 construction, right?
Right. Regular 300.
All right, just want to make sure. So you can actually, talk with Tiffany's folks if you want that integration created. So that's for things that would be not going to CIP, right? They're going directly in service as a direct purchase, and you're placing it directly in service. So that's where the templates would actually come in handy, because this will
The goal
have.
here is to put things into this module you're showing us and have it automated to feed to every area that we need, instead of creating a manual spreadsheet on our own and exporting it into FAS.
Now, right, that's exactly what it's going to do for anything coming out of CIP, right? So I just wanted to show you the template side and where that comes in handy. So that's something you may take advantage of anyway, for that particular reason. So let me actually jump back here. So I'm going to show you how easy it is to create the assets, but I want to actually touch on those individual transactions first, right? So I'm back here where we're looking at, a project with multiple line items. All of these are going to become a fixed asset. And as I mentioned, it's got its own budget. Those individual transactions now that might come out of your AP or PO systems, materials, labor, permits, you name it, these are what we call transactions. So it is going to keep a running total of all of those transactions, right? So in my case, I've got to 1.169 million here. That is what's being measured against my budget for this line item, and it will become my acquisition value once all of the spending is complete on this item. So if you actually go to the asset information tab, this is where I'll tell it, hey, spending is complete. And actually, let me go to one that's not been placed in service here. So once I say, yes, your spending is complete, give it a placed in service date, it becomes available to be placed in service. The templates I just mentioned in depreciation, if you have those created, right, I can tell it, hey, I want to assign a template, and that template is what's going to populate depreciation methods and lives, okay?
All right.
I can take a single line item and split it into multiple assets of equal or different value, right? So once I've done that, this item is now in a status that is ready to be placed in service. So let's take a look at the status column here. Anything with a C like Charlie, okay, means I've told it here, spending is complete, give it a place in service date. So that makes it available to be placed in service. Anything with an S like Sam has already been sent to the depreciation module. So I've told it everything is good to go. I don't have to wait until the entire project is done. I can place any line item in service at any point. So if you're doing a new build out for a new store, right? The building is up, you've got your HVAC systems going, you got your security system up, cameras, things like that. Those can be placed in service even though the entire project is not complete. Okay. So all I have to do when I'm ready to place anything in service, go to line items, create assets. All right. It's going to show me everything that I've flagged. I've said, hey, spending is complete. They're available to be placed in service. If you have multiple legal entities, right, multiple companies, I'll be able to say, hey, I want to send these two to that company, right? Or I can select all and send them to the same company. I do not have to create them all at the same time. Now, it will show you how many assets are going to be created from each line item. So my building signs in this case, I have them split into 4 assets. The rest of these are going to be a single asset. As soon as I hit create assets, that's where they're going to show up here, where it's going to create that group, planning with a date and timestamp. And it's going to show up here. If you use the template that includes the depreciation methods and lives, that will all be there. If you don't, it is still going to create it, but it's going to default to personal property, and it's going to set your depreciation method to do not depreciate.
Yeah,
so
we'll use templates. We don't have to get into that right now.
Okay, all right.
Explain to me how payables and bills and invoices interface with all this so that development isn't running with this module and then all of a sudden they don't match what we actually paid. So,
Gotcha. So that would be these transactions you're talking about from all those individual payments. So this also has an import wizard, just like the depreciation side. So you can actually import all of those transactions from Excel. So if in Sage 300, as you get these payments coming in, these various invoices, if you can push it out to an Excel file, you can import all those transactions in the planning module in whatever project they go to.
so our development team probably gets all the invoices first, right, Jared?
Yeah, we'll send, we receive the quotes from the vendors and we usually send it to like dev invoices, Brianna, Leanne, and so forth.
Right. So it's coming from development. And my question is, how does it always sync up and match with Sage 300's payables? And I think we can, this would eliminate probably going through the normal AP portal that we use now, okay? I'm not positive of that, but I would think it would, because does this have an approval system in it also?
It does not, but you can actually, let me go back here. If you notice in my case here, one of the fields that I've customized is to show who approved it. So this would be a manual entry. It is not going to do routing and notification and things like that. So whoever is working this side would be the one that can say, hey, it was approved by X, or it's pending approval, because you've got, various types of fields. I can use one for date fields, for example, or numeric, or and so on. So whoever is managing this would manually to tell it, hey, this has been approved, and so on. Hey, Tiffany, are you familiar with something like Sage Alerts and Workflow, or do they have some other tool like that that can tap into a data and route?
We are, but I would have Sharon and Beth chime in on that. They manage this customer in regards to the 300 aspect.
Oh, got it. Okay. Because that's something they might do on that side, which many people actually do, because this tool actually doesn't do that. So someone would have to tell it, hey, this has been approved or not approved. And whoever's managers would need to manage that process.
Are you saying the invoices could come from our normal routing process AP portal into here, and then they'd flow automatically with templates into FAS and into Sage 300 for payment reasons?
It would flow into the FAS depreciation module. Okay. So this planning module is not going to communicate directly with Sage 300, so it would flow into that.
So we'd still use our AP portal, everybody, I think, to flow it, and we'd have to integrate it into this somehow, Maria and Ryan. So.
And Tiffany, are you familiar with the custom import tool that our expert services group has? I'm just wondering if they have sufficient volume to warrant a tool like that, because that tool can automate it.
Tool, so I don't want to change the tool.
Oh, got it. Okay. I was just thinking up on the automated way of getting the data in.
That's what we can if we create an integration method from it's our own developed AP portal, so we can.
Oh, got you. So you can push it out.
All kind of programming to get it over to here, and then from here, we have it in two spots. We know it's the same thing in the way of invoices went to the AP portal, what we're paying, plus it comes over here at the same numbers and specific details that we're talking about in fields. So,
and then, yeah, you can actually also, because it sounds like it's going to be important to be able to quickly check, hey, let's say for the last 30 days or 60 days, I want to make sure our numbers match for, whatever payments should have gone through, right? So that's probably where a report like this is going to be. There's a transaction detail report. I can say, hey, I want to look at the last 30 days or 60 days, regardless of which line item it's tied to. I just want to see transactions. You can set up whatever type of filters, even using multiple criteria you want. So I can quickly see certain types of transactions and look at it based on a date range. And I can even, so I can generate something like this, and it's just going to give me some basics, right? Date posted, the transaction date, so a couple of basic pieces of info, but most importantly, how much is it and what the total is for that date range that I'm looking at. So this would be a quick way of saying, hey, I've got exactly for February what I'm showing in my AP system.
You could do that per vendor, right?
Yes, like I said, you can set up, filters if you wanted to do it by vendor or, whatever it may be. So you can run this for specific vendors, for example.
Or contractors. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
And probably the other thing you're going to want out of here, right? Because someone is going to want the high level. So let me actually show you this consolidated view as well. So you've got, let's say, multiple projects going. In addition to the project you're in, I can choose, any of my other projects. In my case, I only have 4 in total. And I can look at this in just a subtotal view or in full detail against either sets of numbers, either the original or revised budget. And I can even limit this to looking at transactions posted through a particular date. Now, when I run this, I'm going to just run this in the subtotal version first, because this is the trust me view, right? So if Jared, let's say you work in multiple projects, Glenn asks you what's going on, and you want to just say, hey, trust me, Glenn, everything is great. Don't worry about it. This is what you would send him, would be the high level view, because this doesn't give you the full detail. It is going to give you just those individual projects, the budget, your actual spend, and whether you're over and under. So if you look at this view, it looks like everything is fantastic. Well, not necessarily so, right? Because if I look at the details, you'll see this line item, remember, these are what's actually going to be the fixed asset, 69 grand over budget, 78.48 over budget. But it's saying, hey, I've got 177K in the budget to go. Everything is still not great, because if you look at the actual spend versus what's budgeted, see all of these zeros? I've not spent a dime, but look at what's budgeted. 25 here, 7 here, 11, 15, and so on. So by the time I just spend this, I'm probably going to be over that balance, right? But in addition to that, if you look at things like this, let's say this is what, 45K spent of 55K budget, but it is still an active line item, right? Status of A. So this could easily become a $75,000 line item, right? So this view really tells you what's going on, because you can look at your actual versus what's budgeted and even what's not spent. Whereas this view, hey, trust me, everything is great, right? So depending on who you're talking to, but of course you can easily just choose detail. And when you run this, right, it's going to expand out all the projects you have selected. And now you get the full view of everything and your totals, on to the next. And then everything is exportable.
Like what happens is Jared gets quotes and bids in, and he enters them into here. Is that correct? That becomes the budget? Or you
No,
just,
it is going to
how does the detailed budget get into, how do the line item per line item budget quotes and that type of thing get into this module, into the?
Oh, sure. Yeah, he's going to actually create them, right? So let me just differentiate something real quick here. Remember, you're going to have whatever budget and revised budget you set in the beginning. Now, each of these line items, right, remember, have their own budget. So at this level, as he gets these bids and quotes, let's say you're doing a new build out and you just got a quote for the HVAC system, right? So you're going to create a line item like I did here for that HVAC system at whatever,
Right.
that budget is. So he would be creating this part, right, and get it set up. Now, not a dime has been sent yet. It's got a date, future date, whatever he has future dated for it to start. And then once you start getting those invoices in for those individual pieces to get that HVAC up and running, that's going to be all of those transactions, which of course, those are now going to be coming out of that AP system that you guys have.
Yeah.
And then if he can get those pushed out to an Excel file, he can import them, but yes, he can also manually enter them.
Yeah,
But,
we'll import them. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So that's how that would flow.
That makes sense, Jared?
I think so.
Now, Jared, would you be the only one in here, or are there going to be multiple users actually in here doing this?
Well, there's another project manager named Steve. Then there's a DOC, Bill. I would think myself, I'll probably teach them how to use it, to be honest, because I'm a lot better than they are with, applications and technology. But I'll say probably me. I'll probably end up doing Steve's just because I'll also show them how to do it, obviously, but I'm not sure at this point, honestly. But yeah,
The reason I asked is that if you wanted to limit who can get into what project and so on, because I'm not sure how you guys do, allocation of the work with that.
That's sorry to interrupt. No, like Steve and Bill, no, we all like I handle a certain project, but no, Steve sees the work I'm doing and vice versa. So there shouldn't be an issue with that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because you can set up security, but it doesn't sound like you'll need it. So everyone will have full access then. Okay, no problem there. So I think, this will work for you then, that the fact that you can easily push that out from your AP system to an Excel file, you can import those transactions in here and be able to get things in. And even if you want to include, by the way, let me just go back here for a second, pending transactions in your totals, right? Because it sounds like some of this information you're going to get is going to be future dated cost, right? If you check this box, it'll include those in your actual. So if when you run those reports, you want those future dated or pending transactions to show up in here, do that. If not, it's not going to include them. It'll just include transactions to the date range you're looking at. So keep that in mind. Okay. All right. Crystal reports. Are you all using Crystal reports right now?
Yes,
No.
with Sage 300. I mean, they have it with Sage 300 because all
Okay.
the standard reports are Crystal.
Okay, so the integrated version of Crystal, which you already have on the depreciation side, right, all ties into this. So if you wanted to build something from scratch, and I'm really want to bringing this up because you guys sound like you're very technical and have a technical team there. If you wanted to build something that doesn't exist, you could build nice, pretty fancy Crystal reports, add SQL expressions, formulas, looking at any project in the database, add your own calculations for anything. You could literally do anything you want. So you'll have that available here as well.
Beth, what's Crystal reports? Explain to me what that other wording is, so I'm aware of what we're talking about.
So Crystal Reports is just a reporting tool. So when you print like an invoice or a customer listing or any report out of Sage, it's using Crystal Reports. Those reports are all designed in Crystal.
Right.
I'd have to go back and look, but if we customize your invoices or your purchase orders or any form like that, we used Crystal Reports to do it.
Yeah, we're not doing purchase orders through it. So I don't think it's utilized that much other than it's just automatically printing the standard type reports we use. What's the other software, Sierra, Matt's not on right now, that we're trying to get launched also from a report?
SEI. We were just talking about Sage Enterprise Intelligence.
Yeah, Sage
Okay.
Intelligence. So
Mm-hmm.
how's
You
that
could
work?
certainly
with
use
all
that. You
I'm
could
sorry?
use that as well. You
Could
could
use
also
that.
use another reporting tool like Power BI or Sage
Yeah, I mean,
Enterprise
that's
Intelligence too.
probably where Maria comes in with Ryan, and we do use Power BI from another entity that we get a lot of different reporting from. So we'll have to map this out, everybody, and see how the best way to get this flowing and automated.
No,
Yeah.
I got a question actually, and I don't know if Tiffany, if you've talked with them about this yet. Are they looking at doing the standard version or the SQL Server version of this? Because what
Tell
do
us
they
the
have?
difference. Tell us the
Yeah,
difference. I would think it would be SQL because everything is SQL.
Yeah.
But
Because
That's what I
they
was
have the
gonna say,
SQL Server
that would
version.
allow us, because then we'll be able to integrate it easier because the only way I can imagine us integrating is if we have the database and we can push and pull from it.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So the version of fixed stats that you have now is the SQL Server version, right?
That is correct.
Okay,
Right,
so
Maria?
that's what.
I'm sorry, right, Beth, that the definition is the SQL version, right?
I believe so. I have to actually log in to review, but I believe so, yes.
Okay, because this will be whatever version you already have, because it's just a module that's going to be using the same database. And just from the things you were just saying, makes me think you have SQL, because you have all these various tools tapping into the database, pulling data. So yeah, so that's what you would have. So you'd be able to continue doing that.
Okay.
All right. All right, so that's really it for this side of it and how it pushes data over. Do you guys have any other questions about anything else that you can think of with regards to this then?
Maria, do you have any questions? Maria's still on here, right? Yeah. Maria, do you have any questions?
Not at the moment.
All right.
Okay.
So I just actually wanted to show Jared one other thing here that you probably haven't thought of, right? So let's say you bring in a bunch of transactions and you accidentally assign them to the wrong asset, right? You can copy, move transactions, all of those things. So if you make mistakes like that, right, you can easily move them. And even when you do that, I can easily, move them again if I make, additional mistakes. So you can even move them to additional projects. So be sure you name your projects accordingly, so you make sure you're on the right particular, build out, let's say, right? But if you make a mistake and I go, oh man, I just copied, I just imported 100 transactions from AP into the wrong project. I don't want to have to, delete all of those individually and all that. I can simply select them all and move them to another project very, very easily. So it's pretty forgiving, because it sounds like you'd be the guy doing things like that. So I just wanted to show you that.
Thank you.
What are the standard reports right now?
And this one, so there's several, right? So if you look at my reports list here, I've got a couple of consolidated reports where I can look at multiple projects, and the transaction detail that I showed you also. But there are several others in here. The ones I showed you are mainly what you're going to be using, because they just have the most frequently used information. But there are several other reports in here where I can look at as much or as little detail as I need.
Say that our chief development officer wants to look at a project that was done 2 years ago and it's all been placed in service, obviously, and closed out.
Right.
What kind of report can he just easily pull?
Sure. I can go to any of the projects, be it active or inactive, whether they're in use or not. So I can simply go to whatever that project is and pull whatever report I want from it, even if they've already been placed in service. So it doesn't stop you from going back in and getting data out. So all of the reports I've shown you previously, you can get an active or inactive projects. And if you need to reactivate a project, you can actually do that as well.
Is that dashboard that you just scrolled through part of the standard reporting?
Yes. So
Okay.
here, right. So this is all how you access all your reports. The project snapshot that I showed you earlier is available in all projects, right? So I can run it at any point. So I can absolutely do all of that. And by the way, if I'm doing the same type of projects over and over, right, I can copy a project setup, so I don't have to rebuild each one from scratch, right? I can copy the project setup, including, some of these customized fields and other things. So just to save Jared and his team time in getting things going.
Yeah, that's
so you
important.
can do all of those kind of things.
Yeah. Okay. You could set up template repeats for re-equips or new clubs or remodels or whatever.
Because especially, you're going to be doing the same type of projects, repeatedly. I would definitely use that function to copy those setups, because, time is money, right? So I'm sure Jared does have a lot of free time. Say again?
Can multiple people work in this at the same time?
Yes. So just like in the depreciation side, absolutely.
Okay.
It's the same license setup, by the way.
Questions, everybody?
Any questions?
I think that from the IT standpoint, it's going to be, we're going to have to work together for all the integration pieces. I have some concerns with, like, I'm hoping that the column that indicates what the current status is literally a column in the SQL database and something that we can modify in code to make this happen. Because, you know, I think one of the biggest concerns I have for the tech challenge is really making sure that we understand how the data is structured in the database, making sure we're updating the correct entries in the correct way to maintain, you know, good data, but also showing, oh, this has been approved and on the portal and the invoice, and now it's showing updated in the program as well, Sage Fixed Assets. So.
And Ryan, I just wanted to show you this real quick, since you're the IT guy, so you might be the one actually doing this, unless you know, Tiffany's folks are going to be setting this up for you. It's got its own database utility, right? Just like on the depreciation side, but there's a separate database utility for the planning module. So you already have the software. You're just going to be doing the registration to activate those licenses with whatever license code they get. So once you've got that done, you know, then you're able to go on into the software and do, you know, everything that you need to do, and, you know, access or create the projects and so on.
Yeah. I think honestly, the Gross Mendelson team will probably do the install and the setup, but then it's going to go over to Maria and, you know, some other outside people, and Anne, who's also on the team, to, you know, understand this data. So as long as we have a resource that we can talk to about, okay, we're looking at this database, and we need to update this. Where is that located? How is it structured? So that, you know, we have an expert who understands the data in the SQL.
Is there any
That's what we'll need.
documentation? Is there any documentation that we can, of the back end?
On the back end side, because yeah, the product document is really user guide and things like that, and system requirements up front. I'll have to find out what resources on the back end side, if that would be support or development. So let me make myself a note here, and I'll find out. Okay. Yeah, I made myself a note here.
Leanne, we have to talk and see how the assets get into the AP portal that would flow, and there might be some changes how we're doing things there, because we're using prepaid assets right now. We got to talk through all that. Okay. So everything flows in detail so that you're not having to do that later after the fact, is what we got to talk about. Okay. All
You
right.
might look at the coding. I don't know if you can look at the coding of the GL account, like you said, if it's going to prepays and you know it's got to go into the asset module.
Yeah, I'm thinking that the AP module, I don't know. I got to talk to Ryan Brooks a little bit with Leanne and see it, and Ryan Wagner and Maria, and see if we can streamline it by how we enter it to begin with. So,
Yep.
Who's entering it in the AP portal right now? Leanne.
Brianna is.
Brandy is?
Brianna.
Oh, Brianna's entering it. Okay. All right. Yeah, I think that's something that we'll talk about. I think how does Brianna, she gets the invoice from you, Jared?
Yeah, so I get an invoice, then I send it to Dev Invoices, then I'll just say, you know, net 30 or whatever, then I put it in our B-Days in, you know, the team's spreadsheet in the development section.
What would be good for us to do internally is just diagram what we're doing now and then compare what we got to do different to that diagram.
Because I can see
Yeah,
how
that's a good idea.
beneficial with the development rather than, you know, just putting an Excel sheet. Seems like not more official, but like it's in the system, and you know, you can search and so forth. So I can definitely see how it can help.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll try to set that up for next week and you know, talk to, you know, the development team and let them see some of these things in this recording potentially, and then go from there. Okay.
Yep, that works.
All right. All right. Anything else, guys? Questions? I appreciate everybody's time.
I think we got it.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much. The recording should be available shortly.
Yeah.
And then whatever you need, we're here for you.
Hey, Brian, you're probably going to have to get with either Frank or Bill to use their external tool for sending the file, because it's going to be a large file. And our IT security has locked everything down. We can no longer share these big recordings the normal way. So just get with Bill or Frank. And who does he need to send the file to? Send it to one of you. You guys can download it.
The recording itself?
Yeah.
It won't just
It's gonna
attach
be-
to the team. It should have just
Um,
attached to the team meeting.
Yeah, but
Usually.
I don't think it's going to let you download it anymore since we created it. It only lets us share these files internally unless we use an external tool to actually send the file that you guys can download. Our IT
Usually
has
the
locked everything
owner,
down.
just an FYI, usually the owner of the Teams message, because I do this all the time. And sometimes it's 2-3 hour recordings. But what I'll do is place the recording in Office 365 and share it from Office 365 to everyone that would have attended the meeting. And then they can watch it when they need to.
Okay.
Yeah, just double check that, because I think our IT guys have really locked everything down this year. They've made a lot of changes.
Fort
So
Knox.
see if we can still do that. If not, Bill and Frank can get you the tool to get it, the file to them, because it's going to be a
No
large file. Yeah.
I'll take
Thank
care
you.
of it.
All right. Thanks for your time, everyone.
Thank you. We
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Have a great
If
weekend.
there's
Thank
any
you.
questions, let us know.
Okay.
Thank you very
Thanks.
much.
Have a great
My pleasure.
weekend.
Bye,
Bye.
everybody.
Bye now.